things, that's another story in itself. Like I said, everybody's changing or selling out. But I'll tell that story when I get to it. This one is more breaking news and super important. A super important blow that they don't want people to know about to the demonic Democrat communist left. See, like that guy, you probably, yeah, he just happened to roll by. Yeah, to all these niggas, it's over. This is actually a fact that it's over. It's over. So, Mr. Red Charger, you can ride, yeah, whatever. This is the fact that it's over.
In a major new ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court has just delivered a serious blow to the administrative state by eliminating the very framework which allowed federal agencies to basically interpret the law however they wish. Specifically, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down something that's known as the doctrine of Chevron deference. It sounds a little bit technical, but in a practical sense, this one Supreme Court ruling, it eliminated the very core of the power that federal agencies claim to possess. But that power is no more. Moving forward, unelected bureaucrats over in Washington will no longer have the authority to make rules
It's
that then
over for
have to
you
be enforced
punks.
in law.
It's
Let
over.
me explain specifically the background of this particular case, as well as what it means for common Americans like you and I moving forward. To start with, let's rewind the clock back to the year 1984. That was when a case called Chevron versus the National Resources Defense Council made its way up to the U.S. Supreme Court.
It makes sense. It makes sense what they tried to do. It makes sense how it passed. But it's like it should have never passed, in my opinion. But obviously we were kids. I was in fourth grade back in 1984. But so all this shit right here, and especially in the last couple of years, this is what they use. But anyway,
Without getting too deep into the weeds of that particular case, the end result was that the 1984 Supreme Court, they ruled in favor of Chevron, and in so doing, they created a new administrative framework. If there was an ambiguity in a given statute, well, the courts, they would...
well, hold up. Alright. So hot. Like I said, I'll probably gonna end up doing.
Last week, the state legislature of Maine became the 17th in the nation to pass a bill which will effectively eliminate the Electoral College. Because you see, unbeknownst to most people, there is a serious effort in this country to make presidential elections a simple majority popular vote. And even though most people... popular vote. If there was an ambiguity in a given statute, well, the courts, they would defer the interpretation of that statute to the court. Without getting too deep into the weeds of that particular case, the end result was that the 1984 Supreme Court, they ruled in favor of Chevron, and in so doing, they created a new administrative framework. If there was an ambiguity in a given statute, well, the courts, they would defer the interpretation of that statute to the relevant federal agency. In other words, quote, a government agency must conform to any clear legislation statements when interpreting and applying a law. But courts will give the agency deference in ambiguous situations as long as the agency's interpretation is reasonable. In plain English, it means that an agency has to conform to...
Does that also sound familiar? Reasonable. Now, I ain't talking about reasonable. I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. All the gun control, all the reasonable, common. No, they just want to take everything.
the letter of the law, but if there was even a slight ambiguity in the law, well, they can interpret that ambiguity as they may, and the courts will defer to their expertise. The thinking behind this ruling was basically that experts should be the ones responsible for setting the rules and the regulations that protect
Experts, Dr. Fauci, like the real doctor said, a doctor who hasn't. Matter of fact, Dr. Fauci had his job back in 1984. I don't know if he didn't have anything to do with this, but basically, like they said, he hadn't practiced. He just is treating presidents. From Reagan to Bush, to Clinton, to Bush Jr., the Obama. That's all he don't see, like 10 patients or some doctors 20 patients a day. He ain't see nobody.
to their industry, since of course they know better than an elected official or a judge. This established something known as the principle of Chevron deference, and it gave federal agencies a massive amount of power. Starting in 1984, agencies were now free to make rules which effectively, in relation to us common citizens, carried the same power as laws. And you better believe that federal agencies have used this power countless times over the past 40 years. In fact, if you dig through the reams of case files, you'll find that the Chevron deference precedent...
We all know the biggest one from 4 years ago. Remember? You can't come in here. Put that, yeah, you gotta go.
Was the most referenced Supreme Court ruling in the realm of administrative law. Since the year 1984, it's been referenced around 18,000 different times in other cases. And these have real implications for real people's lives, because it's exactly this principle which has allowed federal agencies to interpret laws and go well beyond the literal text of what the statutes actually say.
It actually, like I said, it doesn't. What they did in the '84 didn't make sense, and it took me a second to listen to him. He explains pretty well, but it became crystal clear after about about 5 minutes into the video. Once he started really explaining, he break it down, and it's real simple to understand.
One example of many, during the time of the COVID pandemic.
But I say it should have never happened in the first. I don't see how they did it in the first place. It sounds plausible at first. Like if I was a judge back then, you don't have. That's what I'm saying. A simple layman like us, you would think back even in '84 they should have been like. But you know why? We know what happened. It wasn't that they believed it. Yeah, it was the communists buying them off. They had worked their way up, with the affirmative action and all this and that. It was corruption.
Which is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. They interpreted the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970 as giving them the authority to impose vaccine and mask mandates on American companies. Nowhere in the law, nowhere in the text of the law did it say that they can do this. Instead, if you actually look through the law, it said that OSHA can issue an emergency regulation if it was, quote, necessary to protect employees from a, quote, grave danger. Now, was the vaccine necessary? Were the masks necessary? Was COVID a grave danger to people in their 20s and 30s? Well, according to OSHA, the answer to all...
Oh, another thing. This was a day ago. And YouTube ain't put one of their little warnings. I just noticed that shit. Oh, it's over. Y'all, and also, now the more I'm thinking about it now, I'm up now, whatever. I didn't get out the shower. I'm up now. I had me a cup of water. Get my the water. Remember what they did in 2019. In Georgia, all that. Get 6 feet and all that. Putting shades up when they counting, but they can't do. It's over. They're done. I mean, there are some crazy people that will righteously really vote for Biden. I mean, Harris or whatever. But I don't think nobody's that crazy. If it is, whatever. Then we just screwed. If there's that many crazy people, so they can't do it no more. There's other ways, but I think all of that is taken care of. But the main thing, there's no, the warnings that YouTube would put on videos. He mentioned COVID and this and that, and there's no warning. I don't know. I could be wrong. They could be well. He didn't say anything. No, there was a time like 2 years ago you couldn't say anything. You couldn't even mention it. You had to say, the pandemic or the this and that or 22. You had to, you couldn't even say or vaccine. You had to say the jab, and he don't have that warning right here.
Those questions was yes. And because of Chevron deference, their opinion carried the force of law to protect employees from a quote grave danger. Now, was the vaccine necessary? Were the masks necessary? Was COVID a grave danger to people in their 20s and 30s? Well, according to OSHA, the answer to all three of those questions was yes. And because of Chevron deference, their opinion carried the force of law. Likewise, it was the principle of Chevron deference which allowed the ATF, which is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, to expand the definition of what it means to be a quote-unquote firearms dealer. You see, according to the new definition, if you sell a single gun to your uncle or your aunt or a friend, you might be classified as a gun dealer subject to arrest without a proper license. Likewise, Chevron deference is the reason why the EPA was able to decide that a puddle somewhere in your property was technically a protected wetland subject to jurisdiction under the Waters of the U.S. Act. Basically, for the past 40 years, the laws that come out of Congress, they are what they are and they say what they say, but Chevron deference has allowed the bureaucrats over in Washington to interpret the definitions and the meanings of the words in the actual laws. And, well, for the past 40
He's like, what does this have to do with the niggas? I don't know what it had to do with these niggas that love walking by and driving by my house. These young niggas who weren't even alive in 1984. Old niggas who was in their 20s and 30s in 1984. The dude that still crush, but it's over for y'all. I ain't saying we're gonna do anything to you. What I'm saying is, as far as your whatever the fuck y'all were doing, and all this evil shit is over. And literally, I'm gonna say this right quick, and then because like I said, I gotta go do some things. I'm gonna end up making another video. Matter of fact, let me check and see if I knew they was gonna be like take forever, but I'll just say I'm gonna do this the rest of this video when I come back. I'm definitely gonna talk about this some more. But this is like the old folks. Hallelujah! It's over. It's over for real. This is over. This the end for them. This is the all these decades they worked their way in. Like this shit is rotten. They work their way in and. We taking out the boards and putting in fresh boards and more sturdy American boards. I'm just saying, it's an analogy, but it's like real simple how this should have never passed, and that's how it's corruption. But that's it. We ain't going. It ain't. And like he said, I'll just summarize it right quick. It's not the one of the judges, Supreme Court said it's not going to overturn anything. Most of us we don't care, that happened before, but it's not going to go on no more. From this point on, it's over. No more news. Basically, it's the what they was saying back then. The experts. That's where they got it from. The experts. Dr. Fauci. The experts. But it's more. It's more. They said it's like 18,000 cases over the last 40 years since 1984. The experts. The experts. And it's like I can see what they tried to say, and I still think it's corruption. But that's how it passed in '84. It's like they're saying is a judge shouldn't be getting into the business. It's Chevron, so they're what they were. I'm pretty sure was something about the oil industry and drilling or offshore. Like you said, he ain't gonna get into it. And I'm pretty sure we all could look it up if you want. But it's like you're not a judge. I mean, you're a judge. You're not an oil. This and that, or a geologist. Someone who knows the ground, like Chevron and all the oil companies. They hire a whole bunch of geologists and all these people. But it's like, no. If that's the case, a judge would have to do the autopsies. And on every how they hear murder cases, they what they do, they get the experts, the medical examiner to testify how that person was killed, this and that, murder, or if it's a malpractice, da. The judge don't have, and the judge is supposed to be intelligent. Any judge, that's what I'm saying. To me, it's perfect sense. Yeah, that basically it boils down to discipline. All they said it would have been a burden to listen to all the cases. It would have been, no, well, that's your job. Buckle up, roll up your sleeves, judges, and you got to listen to it. You got to listen to all the experts, both sides, for and against. No, we don't want to be able to drill. He's going to kill all the air. No, we're telling you we can do it safely. You just, both sides got to come prepared. And I'm pretty sure a judge, a Supreme Court, they're going to be like, you know what, talk to me like I'm a kindergartner. Don't use all your big words, just and it's like, but he's a jet. No, that's what he's trying to say. Make it simple. So, and they usually a good scientist should be able to break it down so anybody can understand. This is why we say we need protection, or this is why the other side we say no, we're going to be able to do it and not disturb this area, and we can work and then this and that, and they present their case, and the judges decide. That's how it was never no need. I understood immediately an hour ago when I first. That's what it makes perfect. Yeah, I'm getting chills, goosebumps now. Understood perfect. It's all over. It's like no, that should have never happened whatsoever. That's what it is. That, like I said, if that's the case, every judge will have to be a medical examiner, a cop, whatever. Yeah, that's why you have a detective come in and explain what happened, and a lawyer, a defense lawyer, to say no, this guy didn't or this girl didn't do it. The judge don't do all that by himself. So why in the hell? Well, it's they brought up some kind of polytectile. Is like it don't matter. Whoever, both of them sides, both of them MIT scientists who are against each other, the companies or whatever they are, they better be able to talk. That's their. If they can't, they need to find somebody who can explain to the layman what the hell they're talking about. This genome or whatever the fuck that is they're talking. Yeah, you better be able to, you know, simply explain it. Say you have two circles and one circle is starting to, this is that. I'm making up shit. I'm saying, but that's how whoever the fuck you a 180 IQ and you're, and you feel like you should have to explain to a judge. No, you have to, and you got to break it down. Because that's not the judge's job, but the judge's job is to determine, take all that evidence that both sides gave, and every single time this should be no problem. Now, one side might feel, whoever loses, every loser gonna feel like, damn, that dumb judge ain't know what he's doing. But more than likely, you just salty because you lost. And the judge was right, because like I said, the evidence will be put out there for everybody to peruse, and the rest of us will see, like, no, he was right. Now, if he was wrong, you'll get public outcry. You don't have to be an expert, but we can read it for us, just like we, with the mask and all of that stuff. We all did our own research, and we was like, no, they tried to lie. What they did, they just basically they used emotions. Oh, my auntie died. COVID is real. They had black folks, whatever. I'm gonna leave it at that. So for they still, trying to give, they loosening up, look like, but they still trying to give, whatever strikes.